tonight at 9 o'clock. The president will face the nation, not as in on the TV show, but he's going to do his sales pitch. Maybe. Actually, we don't know exactly what he's going to say. In all probability, though, he's going to say, under the war powers that were established by George W. Bush, I have the power to bomb Syria. And I'm going to do that for a while. And if Congress wants to weigh in, that would be a fine thing. And if Congress just wants to dither like they have for the 6 years of my presidency, because the Republicans in the House of Representatives, and for that matter, the Republicans in the Senate, just can't deal with a black guy in the White House, or a Democrat in the White House for that matter. If they're just going to dither and do nothing, then, I'm going to do it anyway. And take that. Oh, and there is a piece of legislation that has been kicking around Congress. I believe the Senate passed it, and John Boehner has not brought it up for a vote in the House, although I could be wrong on that. It might be that it hasn't passed either body. That authorizes $500 million, $500 million to just, here's a gift to the administration. It's like a block grant specifically to fight ISIS. And, in all probability, he's going to say, hey, why don't you do that at least? And I think that both, war hawk Republicans and some of the war hawk Democrats and all of the more cautious Democrats can probably get behind that. But here's the piece. Here's the thing. I'd like you to just, in your mind for a moment, step into the Wayback Machine, right? And first, let's go back to 9/11. 9/11 was a criminal conspiracy that involved probably fewer than 40 people, maybe even fewer than 30 people, who actually knew exactly what was going to happen. Bin Laden didn't even know exactly what was going to happen. He just knew that he had taken a fairly substantial amount of money, which is, probably less than $1 million. He'd taken some money. The 9/11 report says half a million, $500,000, and given it to Sheikh Mohammed. What's his name? The sheikh that they found in Pakistan that they beat up so badly, and he's in our custody now. And he put this thing together, and they got a bunch of Saudis, 17 or 18 out of the 20 guys who were going to do this were Saudis. 19 of them actually did it. And so you've got this small criminal group, a small criminal conspiracy that blew up the buildings on 9/11. George W. Bush could have gone to the American people and said, we know who did this. It's a small criminal conspiracy funded by Saudi Arabia in large part, run by Saudis, run by a Saudi by the name of Osama bin Laden, in fact. And, we're going to ask Saudi Arabia to quit funding this kind of stuff. And by the way, according to the New York Times, Saudi Arabia is running telethons to raise money for ISIS. And variations thereof. I'll get to that in a minute. But Bush could have said, we're going to ask Saudi Arabia to stop funding these Sunni Safali Wahhabist, neo-Wahhabist radicals. And we're going to ask the world community, Interpol and all of the intelligence agencies of the various countries that have a presence in the Middle East, to find these guys in Afghanistan, which appears to be where they are, although, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, that was his name. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is, was in Pakistan. So, we're going to find these guys and we're going to bring them to trial. And if Bush had said that, we'd be about $4 trillion richer right now. There would be no ISIS. There'd be no, basically, conflict in the Middle East, or if there was, it would be fairly minimal. It would be the result of climate change and the radical price changes in the price of food. Between climate change and Goldman Sachs setting up their food commodity index, they both drove up the price of wheat in the Middle East to the point where, you had the Arab Spring. It was really all about these governments stopping the subsidizing of the price of wheat because it was getting rarer and rarer, harder and harder to get. So anyhow, Bush could have handled this in a way that did not screw America. But he didn't. And, in fact, if you go back to this and you listen to what Osama bin Laden had to say, this was just before the elections in 2004. Osama bin Laden released a video, and he said, "We are continuing this policy and bleeding America to the point of bankruptcy." He said, "We, alongside the Mujahideen, bled Russia for 10 years until it went bankrupt and was forced to withdraw and defeat." He thought that he was going to do to the United States what he did to Russia, and to some extent he has. He said, "All you have to do is send 2 Mujahideen to the farthest point east to raise a piece of cloth on which is written AlQuada in order to make generals race there to cause America to suffer human, economic, and political losses without their achieving anything of note other than some benefits for their private corporations." As part of the bleed until bankrupt plan, bin Laden pointed to there was an estimate done by the British government that said that al-Qaeda spent $500,000 to execute 9/11, $500,000 to make 9/11 happen. And bin Laden points to that, and then he says, "Every dollar of al-Qaeda defeated $1 million by the permission of Allah, besides the loss of huge number of jobs. As for the economic deficit, it has reached astronomical numbers, estimated to total more than $1 trillion. It's even worse than he said back in 2004. He said, "It is true that this shows that al-Qaeda has gained, but on the other hand, it shows that the Bush administration has also gained someone that anyone who looks at the size of the contracts acquired by the shady Bush administration-linked mega corporations like Halliburton and its kind will be convinced. It all shows that the real loser is you, the American people, and your economy." And then he goes on to say, "So the war went ahead, the death toll rose, the American economy bled, and Bush became embroiled in the swamps of Iraq that threatened his future." Bin Laden was right. Okay, let's go a little farther than that. In March of 2004, we're back in the Wayback Machine here. Now Bush had said in 1999 that if he became president, he wasn't going to make the mistake his father made of having a short war in the Middle East. He would have a war that ran until the next election, so he'd get reelected as a wartime president, because that's where all the political capital was. So we knew that he was going to have a war at least through November of 2004. But in March of 2004, Bush got a big boost. The American people were starting to turn against the war. And then a guy, remember Nick Berg? May of 2004, Nicholas Berg? He was beheaded on videotape by al-Qaeda. And then a few days later, last day of March in 2004, we had 4 American contractors in Fallujah who got burned to death, and then their bodies were tied up from this bridge. Remember that? Immediately, Congress said, "Oh, we got to have a war." Bush said, "Oh, we've got to amplify the war. Stretch it, build it up, go for it." Okay, it totally backfired. And created a giant political vacuum. And it was bait. I mean, they were just trying to get us, they wanted to kill more Americans. Bring it on, guys. For every dollar we spend, you guys spend $1 million. That's what ISIS is doing now. ISIS is another ragtag band. There's probably 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people hardcore in the leadership. There's only 20 or 30,000 of them altogether, and half of them are, old Sunni members of the Iraqi military. And they are begging us to come attack them. Please make us important. We want to be... Because, see, in a good drama, in a good cartoon, you gotta have Superman, but Superman is useless without Lex Luthor. ISIS wants us to be the Lex Luthor in the Middle East.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And Bush had turned al-Qaeda into the Lex Luthor for Americans, and it looks like maybe Obama's going to do the same. We'll see.